Hi everyone, welcome to John Sadler's Auto Repair. Today we're going to talk about fluid services and how important they are. We're working on this 1991 Ford, it's an F-250 four-wheel drive truck, and it came in with a rotating metallic sound. Him and his friend, or his son, helped him with the front brakes. They had some worn out wheel bearings in the front and a brake rotor was down to the middle. They did that and they drove it and they said they still made the same noise, so they brought it to my repair facility. So I started checking out the different fluid levels and rotating the wheels, and I supported the rear differential. I rotated the wheels and I heard a lot of noise from the passenger rear differential. So I took the fill plug, it's on the side of the differential, it's probably pretty hard to see from here. But right where the flashlight is shining, that's the differential fill plug. There's not a drain plug on this model, but that's the fill plug. I took that plug out and there was no fluid in the differential whatsoever. The differential was empty on fluid. So first I went to the passenger side where all the noise was coming from. And we took the hub and the housing off. First it has a lock nut that comes off, and then it has an outer bearing and an inner bearing. And what's happened here is you can see this is kind of a shiny, like it's got a coating on it. And what's happened is the outer bearings got so hot, it wore the coating off. On the inner bearing, the inner part got stuck to this axle shaft itself. And so what we tried to do was to heat it up and get this part red, and then take a vibration hammer and chisel this off a little bit. This has got so hot, it didn't move at all from where the lip where it sits here. It's so hot it just froze to this shaft by being so worn out. When we took the hub off, we found out the bearing that comes off of there is supposed to look like this, the inner bearing. And so when we took that off, this is the one off the driver's side. When we took it off the passenger side, here's what came out. So these are all supposed to be round, obviously, and you can see where they're square, they're flattened off, they're just all beat up. It's really horrible. I haven't seen one quite that bad in a long period of time. On the driver's side, to show you what a good side looks like, you can see how nice and shiny it is, how smooth it is, and how it's shiny there. So what happened is the other side got so hot, it just wore through the actual material of the axle housing. This piece here is part of this whole differential. So now the whole differential needs to be replaced because this piece is so damaged it can't be repaired. Another problem the vehicle had is you can see all this grease on the brake shoes. All this grease is not supposed to be here. The seal that goes on the hub, and I'll bring you the hub. This is the hub that slides on here. And then it has a bearing that fits inside like this, and then it has a seal. Where those seals were leaking is why all this grease is on the outside here. And then it has a bearing that's going to go when this slides on, just for an example for you. Then this slides on, then another bearing goes on here, and then this lock nut holds that on, then your axle goes in, then your brake drum goes on. So that's kind of the assembly, a sequence of events. Now if you notice at the top of these shoes, the space from here to here and the space from here to here is the same on both of these shoes. That shouldn't be like that. The primary shoe, the forward shoe, should have less material. The secondary shoe should have more material. So I went to the passenger side. And if you look at the spacing here, there's more material on both of these shoes. So someone did a brake job not all that long ago because there's quite a bit of shoe left. And what they did is they took the shoe that belongs in the rear of the backing plate They put both rear shoes on the passenger side, and they put both primary shoes on the driver's side. And they didn't take apart, since the drum slides off, they didn't take apart these axles, these hubs, to check these bearings, to pack that. No one's taken the plug out of that differential for years and years and years. The customer says he paid a shop to do an oil change and to change and check and fill all of his fluids not very long ago. Obviously that did not get done. So here's a little tip from John Sadler: make sure the shop you're going to is a reputable shop. Ask to see your old fluids. Tell them to save your old fluids so you can see them. A lot of shops have waiting rooms. If you go for fluid services, you can wait while they do the fluid service. Be sure that you find someone that's reputable that can help you with your vehicle. Because you're assuming someone has done the work for you and helped you, and then you get all these, all these pieces like this, and you get a piece frozen to that shaft. Now that whole differential, we have to find another housing. So we found another one. It was almost $700, $675 for used housing. Then we'll have to put brakes and wheel cylinders, and put new fluid in it, and new seals, and get some bearings and things like that. And just it's a good used part. We just hope for the best. So at this particular time, the customer can't afford to fix it, so we're going to put it back together again, and he's going to have it towed to his house, and at a later date we'll get it back in here and put a good used differential for him and go from there. But what I've always talked about fluids is servicing your vehicle. Please, please, please find a shop that's reputable. Make sure your fluids are being serviced. A lot of places, I don't know what goes on there, but obviously this consumer, the plug where you check the fluid, where I had it all clean there, where I showed you earlier in the video, had never been removed. And there was no fluid in the differential because it leaked out of the axle seals on both sides. So this obviously had a problem for a long period of time, and having a good mechanic is like having a good doctor. You've got to kind of seek them out and find them, and then once you do, they can be very helpful, so you can have a long life for your vehicle with just doing basic maintenance instead of these catastrophic repairs. So that's another tip from John Sadler's Auto Repair. Have a great day. Thank you.